The flood of disinformation surrounding the US presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, has reached unprecedented levels.
There are 150 million voters in the United States. But because the presidential elections are decided state by state, an average of about 50,000 people can be the difference between winning and losing any election.
Truth is under attack in this election, threatening the very foundation of democracy.
A lot of Americans, they do not share a common base of reality.
Social media platforms are flooded with disinformation, and often users try to tarnish the reputation of both candidates.
The Harris camp attempts to portray Donald Trump as old and senile.
The general narrative of disinformation is that she is a bad person. She is inadequate to be a president.
In this video, we'll demonstrate how both Republican and Democrat supporters attempt to portray their opponents negatively. But first, let's note the following.
Of course, there is disinformation on both sides. We are detecting also disinformation coming from the Democrats, of course, but it would be misleading to claim that there is an equivalency between the two.
There's a surge of dis and misinformation on the Republican side. But first, let's examine the claims about Donald Trump. Recently, more people online are questioning his mental and physical fitness for the presidency. Here's a viral example. Donald Trump is allegedly sitting on an incontinence pad in a talk show in case his diaper leaked. But the claim is false. In the video, you can see that Trump is not sitting on a mat. He is wearing a dark blue suit. The coat is very long, and the extra cloth is on either side of Trump as he sits down on the sofa. Examining this type of dis and misinformation might seem odd, but it is a narrative that has not been only used against Trump. When US President Biden was still the candidate for the Democrats for the 2024 US presidential election, he faced similar false accusations that suggested he was not bodily fit because of his age. Anyways, Trielli believes this type of disinformation won't significantly damage Donald Trump's image.
He's almost immune to any of those things actually sticking and changing people's views about him.
Nevertheless, Kamala Harris supporters argue that her 78-year-old opponent lacks the fitness to serve as president.
He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it.
This claim is true. In the United States, presidential candidates aren't required to publish medical details. However, since the early 1990s, it's become common practice due to serious illnesses of politicians like Paul Tsongas, who had stomach cancer but wanted to run for president, and former President Ronald Reagan, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's after his presidency. On October 12 this year, the White House released Kamala Harris' medical data. Her physician described her as being in excellent health. To date, Donald Trump has not disclosed any details about his health. In November 2023, Trump had last released a letter from his personal physician, Dr. Bruce Ehrenwald, stating he was in excellent health without providing specifics. The last detailed medical data on Donald Trump was published in January 2018. However, not releasing medical data doesn't prove Donald Trump is unfit to be president. And experts say the lack of data may not even significantly impact voters.
I don't think the lack of transparency about his health records is going to sway that many people. When you're a presidential candidate, your health is no longer a personal thing. It should be a bigger concern, but it's not going to be.
As previously noted, experts say the volume of disinformation targeting Kamala Harris far exceeds that of Donald Trump.
The Trump campaign is ruthless in spreading lies to undermine Democratic candidates. A common claim is that Kamala Harris is unqualified and lacks experience, despite her 3 years as a vice president and a background as a prosecutor.
According to experts, this narrative is also used to target Kamala Harris because she is a black woman.
Sexism and racism makes it that people believe that somehow her position in life is undeserved. And that is fueled by these detractors having really no concept that a woman of color can achieve those things.
Here's an example. Many users on social media claim that Kamala Harris worked as a prostitute. This old photo of the candidate has been circulating multiple times, claiming she allegedly worked as a prostitute in 1996 to advance her career. This is the common sexist stereotype that successful women use sex to advance their careers. But the claim is false. The image doesn't show Kamala Harris as a sex worker. A reverse image search shows that the original photo was flipped. and this man was cut out of it. In the photo, you can see Kamala Harris and former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown. We found it in a news article by the British tabloid Daily Mail, stating it was taken by Ben Margot for the Associated Press in April 1995, not in 1996 as claimed in the X post. Kamala Harris and Willie Brown dated in the 1990s, according to media reports. Although Brown was legally married to Blanche Brown at the time, they had been separated since 1981. So, the photo on social media does not show Kamala Harris as a prostitute, and there's no evidence that this relationship advanced her career. Another current narrative about Harris is that she lacks the intelligence to be president.
She did a town hall using a teleprompter. You can't do that.
Donald Trump is referring to this clip.
Are you okay? And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene.
But this is false. The shared video is a segment from a 60-minute town hall where undecided Hispanic voters could directly question the candidate. Around the 6th minute, Kamala Harris is seen standing in front of the camera with a teleprompter. However, the text on the prompter remains static, disappears after a few seconds, and Harris continues her speech. Due to the video quality, we couldn't determine what the text said. However, Harris does not look at the prompter, but at the audience. Throughout the show, she rarely looks directly into the camera, which would be necessary to read from the prompter. The show's host, Enrique Acevedo, explained on X that the prompter displayed his introduction and then switched to a timer. Another viral claim is that Kamala Harris is ineligible to hold the office of president because neither parent was born in the US and naturalized at the time of Harris' birth. This claim is false. Harris is eligible to run for president. There are 3 requirements for presidential candidates. First, you have to be a natural-born citizen of the United States. Second, you have to be at least 35 years old. Third, you have to have been a resident of the United States for 14 years. Kamala Harris meets all these criteria. Her birth certificate shows she was born on October 20, 1964 in Oakland, and her biography confirms she has been a resident of the United States for at least 14 years. The birthplace of her parents, her mother born in India and her father in Jamaica, and their citizenship at that time are irrelevant to eligibility for the presidency. These are just a few examples of dis and misinformation targeting both candidates right before the election. What we have seen less than expected were AI-generated fakes. Recently, we saw this one of Donald Trump allegedly only donating $1,300 to hurricane survivors, or this fake image of Kamala Harris as a communist leader. But they can be easily spotted and debunked.
Maybe there is a small percentage of people who really believe, by looking at that image, that she was wearing a Soviet uniform at an assembly. But for the majority of people seeing that image, the objective of that image is to associate her with communism.
So, AI-generated content can still manifest one's image of a candidate, even if you don't think that the image is real. What is harder to detect is audio deepfakes, so audios that are completely fabricated.
Few hours or days, just one day maybe before the election, AI-generated audio can start circulating. And the audio, it's trickier than video and image because we don't have the visual element that usually helps us a lot in identifying the content as AI generated.
So, be careful what you see, what you believe online, and what you share. If you see any possible disinformation online, feel free to send it to factchecking@dw.com.